Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Okay, tell me if this sounds familiar. Have you ever felt like your brain is just lagging? You know that exact feeling, right? Where you catch yourself reading the exact same sentence like 3 times in a row and absolutely nothing is clicking? Honestly, it feels exactly like a computer with way too many tabs open, running on some seriously outdated hardware. Well, today we're going to frame the human brain exactly like that, as a biological computer. And look, just like any complex operating system, it's got its fair share of glitches. But here's the incredible news. We don't have to just live with the lag. We can actively patch these bugs, upgrade our hardware, and literally dramatically boost our daily output. Let's get into it. So we've all seen those reCAPTCHA tests, right? You know, clicking the crosswalks to prove to a machine that we are, in fact, human and paying attention. But how often are you actually paying attention in your day-to-day life? Think about it. Have you ever unlocked your phone, stared blankly at the home screen, and completely forgotten why you picked it up in the first place? Yeah, that is a classic cognitive glitch. The truth is, we spend so much of our day on mental autopilot, functioning purely on muscle memory. Our brains basically go into this biological power-saving mode, which, by the way, is exactly why you end up standing in front of an open refrigerator with absolutely no idea what you're looking for, all while our actual processing power is just being totally hijacked by distractions. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our tutorial menu for today. We're covering 1. Your glitchy, distracted brain. 2. The power of neuroplasticity. 3. Defeating digital distractions. 4. The 90-20 time hack. 5. Sensory buffs and flow. And 6. Mastering your mental code. Let's jump right in. Starting right off with Section 1, your glitchy, distracted brain, diagnosing the system. Okay, so to fix the system, we obviously first need to understand the bugs. And there are some really common system errors we all face. Take the doorway effect. This is a famous one. You walk into a room and instantly forget why you're there. Now, I found this absolutely fascinating when researching this explainer. Biologically, your brain is creating what's called an event boundary. Crossing a physical doorway literally signals your brain to dump its short-term memory cache just to save storage space for the new environment. It's an incredible, if super annoying, biological quirk. Then there's time dilation. Ever had a high-stress moment feel like it's in slow motion? That's because your brain suddenly switches from, say, 30 frames per second to 120 frames per second just to process a threat. And of course, app amnesia. Look, modern digital multitasking constantly interrupts our short-term memory, which makes all these everyday glitches way more frequent. You didn't just forget, your context got wiped. Moving right along to Section 2, the power of neuroplasticity, upgrading the hardware. All right, we first have to look at what's actively degrading our hardware. Professor of clinical psychology Thorsten Barnhofer points out a really vital mechanism here. Constant stress, worry, and that endless mind-wandering we all do, they don't just feel bad emotionally. They actually release the stress hormone cortisol. And when cortisol remains high, it literally becomes toxic to the brain. Think about that word for a second, toxic. Stress isn't just a fleeting mood. It causes real, physical hardware degradation. It directly inhibits your brain's ability to change, learn, and adapt. But hey, here's the ultimate good news, and honestly, this is something that should leave you in absolute awe of human biology. Our brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity is essentially the brain's superpower. It means your brain is not a fixed, static machine like the laptop sitting on your desk. No way. It has this constant, active ability to adapt, evolve, and literally change its physical structure and function over time based on your daily experiences, learning, and habits. Basically, you are the programmer of your own hardware. And guys, this isn't just theory. A BBC science journalist actually underwent functional MRI scans before and after doing a simple 6-week mindfulness and meditation course. The results totally blew my mind. In just 6 weeks, which, by the way, is a practically non-existent amount of time in biological terms, the amygdala, the brain's stress center, measurably reduced in volume. Shrinking the amygdala means you experience noticeably less anxiety and less panic in your everyday life. Meanwhile, the cingulate cortex, this is an area absolutely crucial for focus and controlling the wandering mind. It actually grew. Growing this area means unlocking unbreakable focus. So by simply practicing focused attention, you can literally reprogram your brain's hardware to stay locked in. How cool is that? Which brings us to Section 3, defeating digital distractions, patches, and nerfs. So now that we know our hardware can be upgraded, we need to install some patches to block the biggest drains on our mental processing power. First up, task priority. When you wake up, your brain is fully buffed. You've got a full mana bar and maximum focus. But if you open your phone right away, you instantly initiate every digital side quest in existence, answering emails, checking social media, reading the news. You can lose up to a staggering 30% of your daily processing power before you even get out of bed. It's wild. The fix? Tackle your main quest, your hardest, most important task, first thing in the morning while your energy is at its absolute peak. To protect that energy, we need to build what's called a 20-second wall. Here's the secret. Your brain is naturally lazy and incredibly efficient. It always wants the path of least resistance. So if you have a bad habit, just build a 20-second delay into it. For example, if you instinctively doom scroll in bed, leave your phone charger in the bathroom overnight. If you snack when you're bored, stick the junk food on the highest shelf out in the garage. Make the bad habit feel like an unskippable video game cutscene. That 20-second barrier is just annoying enough that your brain's natural laziness will win out and you'll just skip the distraction entirely. Another incredibly effective patch is grayscale mode. Look, modern apps use bright, flashy colors to act exactly like dopamine slot machines, keeping you perpetually hooked. By just going into your phone's accessibility settings and switching the screen to grayscale, you're essentially delivering a massive mid-season nerf to that reward system. Without color, the emotional charge of the screen totally fades. Let me tell you, Instagram looks remarkably boring and ancient when it's just depressing shades of gray. Your brain naturally deters itself from wanting to look at it, giving your willpower the room it desperately needs to breathe. All right, Section 4, the 90-20 time hack, managing your energy bar. So, the crucial point is, we've cleared out the lag, but how do we actually optimize our working time? Well, the secret lies in the number 90, and I really want to emphasize the biology behind this. Your brain operates on what are called ultradian cycles. This is not just some clever life hack you read on the internet. This is a biological rhythm hardwired right into their very DNA. The human brain is biologically structured to maintain a deep state of highly productive work for exactly 90 minutes at a time. During that specific window, your neurons are firing optimally. That 90 minutes, that is your maximum XP gain window. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we ignore that biology. If you try to push past that 90-minute mark without stopping, your efficiency drops by half. Seriously, half. You suffer a massive cognitive debuff. Your error rate shoots up, your focus completely shatters, and you inevitably crash right into the burnout wall. But there is a biological cheat code. Take a dedicated 20-minute rest period. And let's be clear, a 20-minute break is not wasting time. It is biologically required to clear out the metabolic waste building up in your brain. Doing so completely removes that debuff and resets your efficiency right back to 100%. So the rule is simple. Sprint for 90, rest for 20, and repeat. Next up is Section 5, sensory buffs and flow, exploiting checkpoints. Let's look at how we can actually exploit our brain's pattern recognition to instantly shortcut our way into deep focus. I like to call these sensory buffs, and the science behind this is genuinely amazing. A perfect example is the gum buff. If you chew a very specific, unique flavor of gum while studying complex material, and then chew that exact same flavor during the test, you give yourself a massive cognitive boost. The scientific term for this is context-dependent memory. You're literally hacking your olfactory system, your sense of smell and taste, which has a direct neural line to the memory centers of your brain. The sensory trigger acts like a biological loophole. It bypasses the loading screens and tells your brain to instantly load up that previous mental save file. We can really think of this trigger concept in two distinct ways. First is the Zeigarnik effect. When you abandon a task halfway, it becomes a massive background processing drain. Your brain leaves this flashing red waypoint marker on the unfinished task, just draining your focus until it's finally finished. It's exhausting. But conversely, we can intentionally create flow state rituals to close those background tabs. Whether it's lighting a specific candle, cracking your knuckles, or putting on a specific lo-fi playlist, these physical actions act as keyboard macros. Through behavioral programming, your brain recognizes the physical pattern and instantly locks into focus without the usual warm-up lag time. And finally, Section 6, mastering your mental code. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it ties everything together. We've covered a lot of ground, from hardware upgrades to behavioral shortcuts. But to truly master your mental code and solidify new knowledge, you need the Feynman technique. Here's how it works. When you're trying to learn something new, try explaining it out loud to an imaginary audience, as simply as possible. If you trip over your own words, if you stammer, or if you have to pause, Well, you haven't just messed up a speech. Your brain has identified a literal gap in its own neural pathways. You've basically found a hidden bug in your mental code. It means your level is just a bit too low on that topic. Every single time you stumble, you know exactly where you need to hit the practice range to level up until that explanation is completely fluid. All right, let's review our ultimate productivity cheat sheet. First, do your main quest first while your mana is totally full. Second, nerf your digital distractions by turning your screen grayscale and building those 20-second walls. Third, ride your biological ultradian cycles with that 90-20 time hack we talked about. Fourth, use sensory buffs like the context-dependent memory of gum or flow rituals to load your mental save files. And finally, debug your knowledge by teaching it out loud with the Feynman technique. We've seen the fMRI scans, right? We know for an absolute fact that the hardware can adapt. We've mapped out the glitches that are causing your mental lag, and we've laid out the specific code to fix them. You now have the exact step-by-step tutorial to optimize your biological computer and unlock a completely new level of focus.